Notice of the time, date, location, and agenda of this meeting, to the extent then known, was provided at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting in the following manner pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 231 of the law of 1975, by posting such notice on the bulletin board and in the municipal building, and by email notification generated by IQM2 to the offices of the Independent Press, Bloomfield Life, Star Ledger, Patch, Bristonet, and Tappan to Bloomfield. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, Louise is up here. Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mundell.
Here.
Councilman Joanna.
Here.
Councilwoman Cruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Davis.
Here.
Councilman Gamble.
Here.
Councilman Rockwell.
Here.
Mayor Venezia.
Here.
All present.
All right, so we are going to start off with public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Yes, you come up right up, just come right to the microphone.
Clerk, I know we're limited to 5 minutes. I'd like to request 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Jeffrey Whitner, 12 Alexander Avenue. Good evening, Mayor Venezia and council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening on behalf of Restore the Peace. My name is Jeffrey Whitner. I've called 12 Alexander Avenue my home since 1998. I'm here tonight with some of my closest neighbors from Block 1321 in the North Brookdale section. I speak on behalf of Roundtree, Drozdoff, Sheehan, Lardieri, Murphy, Hertling, Kepler, Richards, McBaron, Kopek, and more. All of us share the same simple goals for our families: a safe and peaceful coexistence with our neighbors and our community. For the most part, we were all enjoying that quality of life, working, raising our children, enjoying retirement, and when time allowed, embracing the peace and tranquility of our homes and outdoor spaces. We all had that in common, and despite the pandemic, life was pretty good on 1321. This is when I'm going to bite my tongue and refrain from delivering the words I had originally prepared for tonight. Those words were an angry summary of the torment that we've been forced to endure for far too long as a result of our neighbor, Bella Napoli. By now, I'm sure that most of you are at least familiar with the insanity associated with the circus tent. Those original words also included a frustrated account of the blind eyes and deaf ears upon which our cries for help fell upon right here at Municipal Plaza. Although those words are undeniably true and justified, I've decided to table those words for a day I truly hope will never come. We'll be back in August if we have to. The reason I changed presented itself in the form of a phone call that I received last Tuesday. That call came from Township Administrator Anthony DeZenzo and his assistant Kim Duva. I hope I don't regret this, but rather than rant and rave about the negative, I think it's more important and productive to acknowledge Anthony and Kim for the time and attention that they finally gave this urgent issue. This is the way Municipal Plaza should have responded months ago. This was the first time that anybody at Municipal Plaza truly digested the big picture with good old-fashioned common sense, rather than simply regurgitating the standard answer, Governor Murphy's executive order. We want to publicly thank both Anthony and Kim, and we truly hope that Bella Napoli adheres to their strong message and does not continue to take advantage and further embarrass not only Anthony and Kim, but all of Municipal Plaza with any more arrogant, obnoxious, inconsiderate, self-entitled, and disrespectful behavior at the expense of all of those around them. We are sympathetic to Bella Napoli's losses due to the COVID pandemic. We want them to succeed, but we will not tolerate being told to go pound sand by Sal or Jerry anymore. We will not cower to a neighbor that behaves like a 3-year-old that doesn't get their way. Fortunately, this past weekend was the first in a very long time that resembled what we all once enjoyed on Block 1321, peace. Unfortunately, we aren't sure if that was coincidence or compliance. By coincidence, I mean, it's possible that Bella Napoli may not have had any parties booked for the 3,200 square foot circus tent event space this past weekend. By compliance, I mean that maybe Bella Napoli has finally made some much needed and long overdue adjustments to the way they do business and how it impacts their neighborhood. That remains to be seen and heard as the summer rolls on and into the fall. Let me make this very clear. We are hopeful that this is as a result of compliance. However, if this past weekend was just coincidence, know that we are highly motivated, gaining strength, not going away, and we will not stop until our quality of life is returned and peace is restored to the way it was before the Bella Napoli circus came to town. Lastly, although we are encouraged by Anthony and Kim's work thus far, there is still much work to be done with regard to overwhelming traffic and parking issues that must be closely monitored in order to prevent any serious injury or worse. In addition, there also remains ongoing light trespass from the Bella Napoli parking lot that we understand are being addressed. This must be executed. We want to work with you to pursue a safe and peaceful coexistence with our neighbors and our community. In closing, we hope that Anthony and Kim remain vigilant with Bella Napoli. They understand what it means to serve Bloomfield and exemplify how all of Municipal Plaza should respond to issues brought to the attention of our elected officials and our beloved Bloomfield. Do the right thing. Restore the peace. Thank you very much. Thanks for the extra time.
So, just to let you know, we are monitoring the situation. Both Anthony and and Kim have spoken to Sal, and we're going to continue to monitor it and see how it goes. And if we'll see how the next couple of weeks goes. We'll be in touch with you.
Much appreciated.
Is there anybody else here for public comment? I know, Kathy, there's somebody on the phone.
Hi, Mr. Giordano.
Yes,
If you could just state your name, your address, and then you have 5 minutes to speak. You can begin.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me, okay, my name and address. Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle Avenue, Westwood, New Jersey.
You can speak.
Okay, thank you. I'm here as a representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW. United Food and Commercial Workers Union is the official labor union that represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both in medical and adult use. and we have a national membership of 1.3 million members. I wanted to call in just to say thank you to the governing body for supporting cannabis and allowing it in the area to create good jobs. These jobs will be living wage jobs, good health care, sick time, vacation, and I'm really happy to see the governing body take this leadership. One of the things that I would ask is that you allow a merit-based application system. Like the city of Bayonne. The city of Bayonne passed a merit-based application system. This looks at labor standards, environmental standards, security standards, and local ownership. And it's a way to make sure that when these companies come in, that they actually do what they say they're going to do. You know, for example, if a company polluted in Colorado, they'll probably pollute here in New Jersey. If a company fought workers' rights in Illinois, they'll probably fight workers here in New Jersey. So the city of Bayonne took the leadership role to make sure that social equity was part of a local application system. So I would really suggest the city of Bayonne's merit-based ordinance. Outside of that, I just want to thank again the governing body of Bloomfield for supporting retail cannabis and creating good union jobs. And I hope that you will make sure that any employer that comes in will do right by the workers and the citizens of Bloomfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, is there anybody else for public comment? We will move on to presentations. We're going to start off with the proclamation. Councilman Gamble?
I'm going to do a little preview. This is very, this was, these presentations are for organizations that were part of helping us with our Martin Luther King Day of Service that we had back in January. And because of the circumstance, everything was virtual. We wanted to wait until we could all get back together again and recognize the clear commitment that these organizations and individuals have provided for us. So I will hand it over to Councilman Gamble.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mayor and Council, I have a proclamation recognizing local organizations. Whereas many New Jersey residents are in continuous struggle to provide food for themselves and their families, this struggle, also known as food insecurity, can result in hunger and malnutrition. And whereas over the past year, many Bloomfield households were able to maintain food on their tables thanks to the volunteer work of multiple organizations that serve the Township of Bloomfield in partnership with Neighbor to Neighbor Network and the Bloomfield Human Services Division. And whereas by establishing a network of community-based food banks, pantries, and suppliers that serve Bloomfield residents, we can continue to reduce the prevalence of food insecurity and offset the adverse effects of hunger and malnutrition. Whereas with great pride, we recognize the following organizations, those mission is to serve their community through volunteer work. Now therefore, I, Michael J. Venezia, as Mayor of the Township of Bloomfield, along with the members of the Township Council, do hereby recognize the incredible work local food pantries and organizations continuously do for our community and others. The Township of Bloomfield is proud to support local organizations and the Neighbor to Neighbor Network. Now I'm going to read the organizations, and if a representative from that organization could come up. Montclair Human Needs Pantry, Tony's Kitchen, Girl Scout Troop 20340,
You just come up in.
Bloomfield Public Library,
Yeah, you can stand right there. We'll do it.
New Light Baptist Church, Bloomfield Communities Farmer Market, Park United Methodist Church Manna Pantry, Bloomfield Presbyterian Church on the Green.
I just wanted to thank all of our organizations. Rodney, our president of the Neighbor to Neighbor Network, you want to just say a quick hello and a couple words? Sorry to put you on the spot, Rodney.
Good evening, everyone. I have remarks now. On behalf of the Township of Bloomfield and NTNN, I would like to thank all of our community partners in helping residents fight food insecurity in Bloomfield. Some of you have been our partners for over 20 years, and some of you are newer. Yet all of you are there when we call upon you to help a resident in need. Together, we help over 1,200 households, many on a weekly basis. We look forward to our continued work together. So thank you once again. And we just have a little something to give to you. Bloomfield Presbyterian Church on the Green. Oh, thank you. Human Needs. Thank you, sir. Park United. Thank you. Bloomfield Library. Bloomfield Camp. Thank you. Farmers Market. Sir, thank you. I don't need help with this one. Girl Scout Troop. New Life Baptist Church and Tony's Kitchen. Oh. Thank you all very much.
Next, excuse me. Next up, we have a presentation for the Martin Luther King Service Awards.
Thank you, Mayor. So I got a little ahead of myself before. Clearly, that was just for the food pantry. So, but it is connected in that, this past year has presented us with a lot of challenges. And one of the things that has been the most heartwarming is how, as a community, we've come together to support each other, doing things like the incredible work that was done with the various organizations for this food pantry. I was teasing other councilwoman, that, you know, a lot of the same groups were very much involved in the Martin Luther King Day of Service. And so it just really speaks to the heart of our town. And to elaborate a bit more on this idea of our heart, I want to talk a little bit about some people that we recognized at the last Martin Luther King Day of Service, Martin Luther King celebration. This year we identified 3 individuals that we give the title of Hometown Heroes. And those individuals were Tina Cochran, who couldn't be here this evening because she was away, because of her idea to bring, to do something for seniors, high school seniors, in the midst of COVID. They were, they'd lived, and it's your senior year, and you're looking forward to it, and at the very end of it, it just fizzles out. No prom, no typical commencement. So she had this idea that she would reach out to people in the community to build, to adopt seniors. And it was amazing how much response there was. It was incredible. It got to be a race to see who could get because people were so happy to be, to adopt, that they would actually, that it was really kind of hard to get in there. You had to work to get in the queue. I actually had to change my Facebook notifications so I could be on it. I wanted to get a couple. So this is recognition for Tina Cochran and her certificate as being, but I wanted to recognize her here as well. We also have, and I'm waiting for a couple people to walk through the door, so I'm tap dancing. Can you all tell that I'm tap dancing? But I will go on and talk about someone who is the quintessential service person in their core. I first met them in a variety of different places. Home and School Association, Tricky Trays at this event, all these kinds of things. And every time I turned around, this particular individual is always putting themselves forward to care for, to change the world where close to her. She was recognized in January for what she did in terms of raising awareness about support for our first responders. She sold these very large signs, or she advertised these large signs for $25, and she used that money to support other organizations, and I will give her a little space to talk about that when she accepts the recognition. But you're not the only Venezia that's special today. I am pleased to recognize Lori Venezia for her work in the community, her tireless work for young people and for first responders, and for all the different ways that you give of yourself that I believe should be elevated and presented to everyone. So good job, Mom and Dad, for raising 3 great kids. Lori, come on up and get your and let's get your certificate. So that was our second hometown hero. Our third hometown hero is Matt Arnold. He's making his way here, and we will recognize him, make sure he gets his certificate. But I do want to recognize Matt Arnold. We did this in our virtual presentation in January, but I do want to say that this is a young man who reached out to us last June after the George Floyd incident, and wanted us as a community to be accountable and responsive, but he was also very interested in building bridges. And so this young man who reached out and put together probably the first, or one of the first sort of town-wide marches in town, but it was inclusive. We had all of the council persons participating in it, as well as our police director and so forth. And I mention this all the time, but at some point I'm going to get this framed for all of us. That iconic picture of Director DeMeo and Matt shaking hands in the center of the protesters. I mean, it is literally the quintessential moment of accountability and centering of our focus on this incredible need that was at that moment. And we need to raise our attention, raise our awareness around these issues. And so I wanted to thank him as a hometown hero here today. And so when he comes in, we will give him his certificate as well. And how much longer can I tap dance? Everybody says, no, not much longer. Can we pause? Can we pause and do it again if she comes in?
Well, why don't we
later?
just continue the meeting and then?
Yes,
yeah.
okay, all right, thank you.
All right.
And we'll be back, stay tuned.
Moving on, Township Administrator?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight for items 1 through 4, we have Director Skirman to present on those 4 items.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First item is firework display authorization. This allows us to shoot off the fireworks on October 16th, and we need it for our insurance purposes. Just a
Moved by Councilwoman Cruz, second Councilman Gamble. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, federal aid for Morris Canal Greenway.
This is part of our 2018 TAP grant that we received for $428,000 for the Morris Canal Greenway on the towpath at Wrights Field. This is actually the federal aid agreement between us and the NJDOT. Part of the TAP grant allows us, if we chose one of the 4 predetermined consultants, they actually pay not only for the grant but also for the consulting fees as well.
Okay.
So this is to
Second,
memorialize that.
Moved by Councilman Rockwell, second Councilwoman Cruz. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3,
Non-fair and open contract for Farmstead Golf and Country Club. That is for our annual Hank Barlow Annual Memorial Golf Outing, which raises funds for our Special Needs Department and our Financial Assistance Program.
I'll move that.
moved by Councilman Gamble, second Councilwoman Cruz. The only comment I have, if, next year, if we could, if cost is the same or if cheaper possibly, look to have it at one of our county courses or somewhere in, one of the Bloomfield courses.
Okay. I'll leave a note for that next year.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4,
Next is in conjunction with that. This is for the food services for the buffet at that.
moved by Councilwoman Mondell, second Councilwoman Cruz. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Can I get a shameless plug for August 4th golf outing, if anyone's interested? Please, please reach out to the Recreation Department,
You
please.
got it. Number 5,
Mayor, 5 through 9, as well as the report, Director DeMeo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Number 5 is acceptance of an award for our body-worn camera grant from the state. It actually covers the entire cost of our body camera replacement system.
moved by Councilwoman Cruz, second Councilman Gamble. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 6,
This is requesting authorization to do another Govs.Deals auction.
okay. Moved by Councilwoman Mondell, second Councilwoman Davis. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 7,
Handicap parking request from 89 Bruton Avenue. It's been vetted by traffic and recommend approval.
moved by Councilwoman Cruz,
Second.
second Councilman Gamble. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 8,
Handicap parking removals from 165 Jerome Place, 175 Baldwin, 81 Willard, and 125 Willard.
Okay, somebody moved by Councilman Gamble, second Councilman Rockwell. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 9,
Removal of a loading zone that's no longer necessary at the LaFrance Avenue location.
moved by Councilwoman Mundell, second Councilwoman Cruz. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Number 10,
Number 10 is my monthly report to the mayor and council. We'll start out with our complaints against personnel. So far this year, we're currently at 28 compared to 30 at the same time last year for a 7% reduction. And I'm just happy to say that each year, continually, we're seeing that reduction in complaints against our personnel, especially in the category of demeanor. For the month, we had 4 external complaints against our police officers. Number 1 was a complaint received about a handicap parking ticket. The woman indicated that even though she didn't have a handicap placard, she was pregnant and should be allowed to park there. It was explained to her that that's not the case, and the summons was issued, and she was referred to court if necessary. The officer did act properly. Complaint against a parking violations officer that he was rude while directing traffic, shouting at drivers. We reviewed camera footage from the officer, the parking violation officer, while he was out in the street directing the traffic by Bloomfield High School, and we couldn't find anything that indicated he was being rude or yelling at motorists, but he is being monitored by the sergeant of the traffic division. Number 3 is a complaint against a lieutenant for authorizing an illegal arrest. That is still an ongoing investigation with Internal Affairs. Number 4 is a demeanor complaint against one of our special officers in the lobby of headquarters. We are still reviewing camera footage and sound footage from that incident, and it's still under investigation by Internal Affairs. We had no internal complaints against personnel for the month. We had a total of 4 early warning system alerts for the month of June. Of the 4, the first 3 were triggered by just mandatory triggers within our system. Once we looked into the first 3, we reviewed each individual incident, and all of them were found where the officers were in compliance and there were no violations of policy, so those 3 were fine. On the 4th, we had an officer who had a use of force complaint, a use of force, which caused a trigger due to 1 other use of force and 1 internal complaint over the past 6 months. Violations were identified due to the internal complaint and 1 of the 2 uses of force. That officer has had discipline imposed upon him and is now in our intense monitoring and supervision program as a result of the early warning system. We had 3 uses of force by officers in the month of June. 1 was detectives making an arrest on a wanted suspect. They engaged in a foot pursuit and tackled the suspect to the ground. There were no injuries to the officers or the suspect, and he was subsequently placed under arrest. 2nd was while at Clara Mass Hospital, officers regarding a prisoner who became combative and struck one of the police officers. Compliance holds were used, and he was placed back in handcuffs and subdued without injury and without any further injury to the officers. And the 3rd was while officers were placing a handcuffed suspect into the back of a police car, he turned and elbowed one of the officers in the face. The suspect was subdued and placed in a radio car without injury to him. The officer did suffer bruising and abrasions to his cheek. The suspect was subsequently charged with assault on a police officer as well. All 3 of those incidents were reviewed by our use of force review board, videos, body cameras and all were accurate. Motor vehicle stops for the month of June were 461. Of those, we had 30.3% of them were Caucasian, 31.6% African American, 34% Hispanic, and 4% Asian. Again, our motor vehicle stops continue to be consistent across our 6 sectors throughout the township. There is no one particular area that's seen a real heavy stoppage other than Bloomfield Avenue. All of the 6 individual zones throughout the town see an even amount of stoppage from the police officers. We had 33 arrests total for the month of June. Of those, 28 were initiated by complaints registered by citizens and called into to 911. 5 were initiated by our police officers. The data on those arrests was included in the email that was sent to you. Overall, Part 1 crimes within the township for 2021 sit at 262 compared to 297 last year. That's a 12% reduction, and it continues to be a downward trend again going through this year, which I'm happy to see. New initiatives. We started today our first session of our Junior Police Academy at Bloomfield High School. I watched some of the video and what was going on there today, and it looked like the kids were really having a good time and getting into it. We're going to have 3 separate classes over the summer for a total of 63 middle school students going through it this year. Training updates. We had legal updates and case law training for our supervisors. We had LGBTQ and the community training class given to all of our police officers. Review of our military leave general order, fire scene safety for law enforcement officers at the request of the fire department, and we also did our firearms qualifications. And our emotionally disturbed person calls data is also in your report. And I'm happy to say that we're moving forward with the program that we spoke about last month. Paula Pikus and I were just speaking about it before she left, and we're going to sit down this week and go over some of the candidates that she has. And that's the conclusion of my report. Any questions that you may have?
Does anybody have any questions, comments from the director? Awesome. Thanks, Director.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Director.
Next up, we have Jill Dombrowski from the Cultural Preservation.
Yes, Jill's going to give us an overview and update on the progress at the Oakside Mansion.
Good evening, Mayor Venezia, council members. I'm happy to be here this evening to offer an update on cultural preservation in the Oakside Mansion. I'm in the process of conducting a comprehensive assessment of Oakside as requested by the mayor and council. With respect to the facility, to date, the following issues have been identified via township inspections and direct observation. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and I do anticipate that other items will emerge as the assessment continues. Regarding the tent area, electrical deficiencies have been noted. The wiring must be evaluated and updated as needed. Exterior grading and illumination requires evaluation and updating as well. Exit and egress illumination and placement to be evaluated for code compliance and proper function. Regarding the mansion and carriage house, fire system requires evaluation for an updated radio-controlled system. Exit and egress illumination to be evaluated for code compliance and proper function. Regarding the mansion only, we've brought in an HVAC vendor to repair the HVAC system for proper function. We're awaiting a proposal. The stove and oven requires inspection to identify the source of persistent gas odors. We are expecting a vendor proposal for installation of a hood system and a fire suppression system in the kitchen, which currently does not exist. DPW electricians have addressed various issues with respect to parking lot and other external illumination. Masonry repairs have been completed for a portion of the front walkway. Fire safety has conducted an assessment to establish occupancy limits for various types of events within the mansion. And finally, evaluation and repair of gutter system for safety and proper function. We are working towards issuance of a continued certificate of occupancy for the facility based on the above items and inspection results. In addition to the facility issues, the following items are in progress. I've met with the previous caretaker of the facility and grounds to discuss his engagement in a similar role moving forward and offered a proposal to the township administrator for same. His institutional knowledge of the facility and grounds has significant value towards establishing a program of continued maintenance and upkeep of the property, grounds, and gardens. I'm building a proposal of recommendations for the standardization of rental uses and rental fees for the property based on the results of the occupancy limits assessment. Once these have been established, they will inform recommendations towards future potential uses of the property. I've worked with a township attorney to establish a draft agreement for single event rentals of the facility, and am building a budget for basic operations and maintenance. This is a square one project, as the township does not have this information from the previous custodians of the property. Drafting a comprehensive assessment of current users, including types of use, impact on facility, costs, and income potential. Drafting a communications plan so that there is clarity for the community regarding contacts for the property, current facility schedule, and accessibility of the facility and grounds. Through the assessment, we've determined that designation as a department rather than a utility best suits the needs of the township. Moving forward, I'll be working to establish an advisory committee to provide advice on future direction to the mayor and council for this initiative. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, comments for Jill? Councilwoman Mundell?
I just wanted to start by saying thank you, Jill, for taking on this comprehensive assessment of the property. I know it's a big task, and there are a lot of unknowns, so we really appreciate all that you're doing right now, and especially to make sure that the facilities are safe and maintenance is maintained. We know that that's been an issue, so thank you so much for that. I did want to say, Mayor, I think it's time we start looking at revisiting the ordinance to create the advisory committee. So if we can get that moving, so that maybe later this year we'll have the ability to appoint people to that to get their input.
Any other questions, comments for Jill? I just want to thank you for being here tonight. I know we had to cancel you the last minute. That was my fault. I was on vacation, and Councilman Gamble was on vacation also, so we felt it was better when we had everyone here. I think just to echo what Councilwoman Mundell has said, I think right now the most important aspect is making sure the building is safe. Hopefully the gas leak is fixed in a proper manner. That would have been really bad. And then also the grounds are kept up and kept beautiful, for the near future. And we look forward to having you again in a couple months to give us another update. And we will certainly get the ball moving with the advisory committee. So,
Thank you so much.
thanks. Okay, Township Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Bloomfield Township Code currently has a chapter dealing with drug paraphernalia, which makes illegal certain instruments and products associated with the use of controlled dangerous substances as determined by the state of New Jersey. What this amendment would do would be to remove marijuana from that list in the Township Code based on the new state law.
Moved by Councilwoman Cruz. Can I get a second? Second, Councilwoman Mundell. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a
Yes,
question.
Councilwoman Day.
And I was under the impression that you were also going to be looking at how to include the use of marijuana smoking in parks. Is that?
It's in a separate ordinance, separate from this. This is just drug paraphernalia, which is a quasi-criminal one. For the smoking ordinance, that's on the second part of the agenda, but we've added cannabis to make sure that it's clear that that smoking is also prohibited from all sites throughout the town where smoking is prohibited.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Township Engineer?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I have is award of a contract for lead service replacements. It's basically a first phase of a multi-phase project. It will place over 350 lead service lines that we know of. The low bidder was Joe Med Contracting. It was for $932,065. This is fully funded through the iBank.
Okay. Moved by Councilman Joanno. Second, Councilwoman Cruz. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2.
Okay, the next item is authorizing resolution to apply for 2022 NJDOT Safe Routes to Transit project. This is essentially going to expand upon the original Safe Routes to Transit that we did with the Watsessing area. This is going to expand out the sidewalk, the handicap ramps, and all those
Can I get
amenities.
somebody to move this? Moved by Councilman Gamble. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Mundell. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Clerk, number 1.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a request for filming. It's a documentary filming requested. They're requesting to be filmed at the Hot Bagels Abroad, and you have the topic listed in your agenda. It's a small set with just a few people. There will be no closures or disruptions to the public or surrounding businesses, and the time frame will be 1 to 6 p.m. And the production manager is asking for a reduced filming fee based on the fact that it's a small set, a few people, and it's only a few hours. So, and that is in the ordinance for the mayor and council that would have to waive the full amount of the fee.
Okay. Can I get somebody to move this? Moved by Councilwoman Cruz. Second, Councilman Gamble. Any questions or comments? Is this the same one you had sent an email about, or is this an additional one looking for a reduced rate?
This is the same one.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's just a few hours at Hot Bagels Abroad on the 27th.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And number 2?
We have our town vehicles and other surplus vehicles that the town owns that we're planning to auction with Gov Deals on our online auction from August 9th to August 16th.
Okay. Can I get somebody to move by Councilman Gamble?
Second.
Second, Councilman Rockwell. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And Township Council, Veterans Day.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to thinking a little bit ahead toward November, and I'm looking at you, Mike. So I'm wondering if we could do something like we've done in terms of other types of affinity groups, sort of focus on, as a township, sort of focus on highlight veterans in our town during that week, sort of with sort of a, have an individual situation where we like highlight them on social media. I know one of our towns in our community nearby actually has like a sort of they've got banners that are done that are clearly they're supported by the so this is supported by the Davis family, or so at the bottom, but they recognize veterans in that way. And so I thought that was just a really good idea, and if we were to do something like that, sort of a week-long celebration during that time. And I'm looking at Mike.
So, Mike, you want to come up here a second? I know. Mike's like grinding his teeth, like I'm getting more. I'm getting more work.
Going to the dentist next month.
I know Joel gave up the Memorial Day, but did he give up veterans stuff as well, the Veterans Day ceremony? So it's virtually on the rec department right now. So I think one of the things that we should possibly look into is creating a veterans committee, and similar to what we do with Martin Luther King, and to help us plan not only the day event, but also what Councilwoman Davis is recommending, and help alleviate.
We created a veteran subcommittee of our advisory board. Our first meeting was on March 15th of 2020, like 2 days before the world stopped. But we actually had, I think we had about 16 veterans that were there, both current people that were in the reserves and people that served. So, we did get off to a good start, but it came to a grinding halt. One thing that we were looking into was trying to find how the street signs, the veteran street signs were not just erected, but how they were selected. Yeah. There's one from World War I, which is Miles Suarez, which was the person who the VFW was named after. But then there's some World War II veterans that have a sign, but many, many, many don't. All of the Vietnam veterans do, the Korean War veterans, and then it ultimately stops there as far as the street signs. But I would venture to say there's probably close to like 100 World War II veterans that passed away that don't have street signs. So I don't know where that originally stemmed from, but I do think it stemmed from Vietnam. They were first recognized Vietnam. But I've been working with the library, has a pretty extensive list, and we have that list culled down. But even like in the Civic Center, we have the World War I bronze plaque in our veterans, and there's names that are on there that aren't on the list, but are on the list, and they're even spelled wrong. So it's
no, it seems like a good project
definitely
for
But I like that. I would love to see, during that first week of November or second week of November, having that night, like how we have the Pride banners, and just sort of blanking an area like that would be.
One thing I think that because I think just the maintenance of putting the banners up, but maybe if we get like a little cardboard, not a little one, but something similar where like maybe this year, for example, we do like the Korean and Vietnam War, so any veterans of those two wars that are still living in town, maybe we do something on the green where we put like a cutout of just a little bio that we could get, if we could get as many people as possible. Similar to what people do, I know Verona does it, where they'll put like the person's picture, they served in their military uniform, they served, let's say, 1942 to 1943 in this battle.
We had a decent turnout this year with, I believe it was for the Veterans Day. We were not able to do the parade, so we did a virtual presentation, and we had very, very good participation in that as well.
Yeah.
Are we looking, I mean, obviously, we're looking to honor the fallen, but obviously, past military were still
I think
still
past
with us
military,
as
just
well.
in general, why people are living.
Okay. I know like Nutley does, Nutley has something by the Oval of active military.
Yeah.
They list that there. I do agree the banners would be cumbersome. I
I think
don't
the
think we
banners
have
would be
enough
difficult
poles.
in this short period of time. I
Yeah.
think that's something in the future we could definitely look
I
at.
think West Orange, you saw it, yeah, I saw it too.
But
I
think-
see it every morning on my way to swim practice, and I'm like, I want to do that.
But I think something maybe with like a small cardboard cutout where you list like, Leo Skirman served in Vietnam, like we do, we'll start with whoever's living, if we have anybody living left from World War II, and whoever's left living from the Korean War, that still live in town.
Okay.
And we did do a social media campaign last year, didn't we? We had a few hundred people, I think, participated, like
It was-
recognizing their
It
family.
was a lot. I mean, there were obviously some that either passed away or some that are still living, but it was pretty well received.
Yeah.
The library has a plethora of information. It's vast.
Okay.
To cull it down is time consuming, but it would be a great project for maybe somebody in community service or maybe a college intern or
Boy Scouts
something
or
along
Eagle
those lines,
Scouts
trying
as
to
well.
cull that down. But I think we would just need to determine, the last thing we want to do would be, to slight someone or forget someone.
Yeah,
So we would
yeah.
need to try and determine what our ultimate goal would be and then how to try and attack that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, now that we're, slowly, pulling out of the pandemic, I could try and reinvigorate that, that subcommittee. I know Louis
Okay.
Felix he was heading that up on our subcommittee, so, I could try and get that going, and then Councilman, I'll try and reach out to you and see if there's maybe something we do on more of I won't say global, but a larger scale, but from 10,000 feet, then we can kind of zero in, and move forward. I think one thing we would also want to determine is that the ceremony has always been done, the parade has always been done during the day on Veterans Day. Might be something we want to look into at a different time,
Yeah.
potentially.
Well, yeah, because I know, like we'd get there and we didn't know if the schools were going to have anybody there or and it always made it difficult to kind of, for the ceremony.
Correct.
So I think we should try to figure out when we can do it and what's a reasonable time we can do
Right.
it on.
I'll start getting some ideas together, and
Yeah.
I'll reach out to the committee again and see if we can get that going now that we're letting, people back into the building and stuff. November 11th. Okay.
And just to follow up what Councilwoman Davis said, something similar to what we did for our employees during Women's History Month. Something similar like that we can do as well for our veterans.
Roseland does a really nice job. You should invite, active, or military, and they would do some sort of presentation within the school, and there were to be like a breakfast. I know it was really, really well received, so
Okay.
I could look into something for that
Yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Still
You
want
probably wanted to leave after your rec stuff.
I was gonna say,
We can't possibly thank them enough, so.
Wait,
And-
don't.
Oops.
I was gonna ask
While you're
Councilwoman
up.
Davis, while you were already up
Okay.
here, if we wanted to talk about September 11th.
Oh, yeah,
Before we
yeah. While he's here,
just
yep.
sort of jump to number 4. I figured rather than have Mike sit down and then stand back up again.
I could use the
I
exercise.
mean,
So I know this year marks the 20th anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 tragedy. In the past, we have traditionally done an event on the town green. I know this year is a little bit more, I don't want to say more poignant, but it is a monumental anniversary. So I wanted to try and talk. One of the choir members of Sacred Heart Church reached out and wanted to see if there was something that they could collaborate with, not only with all of the different church groups in town, and maybe have like a township choir, and to do something at the event. I just wanted to try and get a handle on what the mayor and council, what the level of expectation is, time, obviously the date we know, but
I think you should definitely have like an educational component to it, because all of the young people, none of them were born, 20 years ago. So I think that if we were to try to make sure that we, you know, there's the remembrance part of it, but I think it's also, I guess we might be threading a needle about the education aspect of it, but I'll think about it. But I think that there's definitely, when I say threading the needle, meaning that could be.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that actually? Why don't you, I mean, you could talk to the library, like partner with the library, and they can have like a whole sort of educational, have books out, I think that they'd be well suited to handle some of that educational programming and do it in concert with them. I know you and Holly Belly talk often, so.
Well, one thing, do we want to keep on the 11th at 6 p.m.? Or when did we do it at? What time?
We did it more at dusk last year because we added the votive candles.
Yeah, I just, I feel that we might lose a good amount of the community it being a Saturday night. But I would like to keep it on the 11th, and I would like to expand on the bags, the candle bags, all over the green instead of just a small area we did this year. I think we should do something where we light up the green.
Okay.
Possibly let's use the number of maybe the number of people that lost their lives that day. That number of bags on the green. That might be something nice to do.
Okay. All right, I think what I could do is try and come up with some sort of framework in addition to what we have done in the past, and then I could share that with the council. Probably be best to do that sooner than later and not wait to the next meeting, just because it's a two-week window from that point forward.
If we're doing it earlier today, maybe there's a way it could be like like people could come. I mean, that's like 3,000 bags, right? So instead of if we were to have individuals come, you could come and help make bags.
Make the bags, yeah.
As a part of the
help put them out throughout the green.
Yeah.
I did learn from last year, if you put sand in them early, the bags deteriorate because of the moisture of the sand. I learned that the hard way, but we could definitely figure something out.
Yeah.
I think around the whole entire green would be nice. It'd be substantial. So okay, I'll look into that as well.
Anybody else have anything for any ideas for the 11th? Okay, thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Number two. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the spaces that we have in town that are designated for the property maintained by. And my concern is that when we came up, and I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, like 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, that with this idea.
I think longer.
I guess we have been doing this a little together for a while. We never really talked about what happens next. So there was this, assignment of locations, and then what happens if, for instance, I had a concern about one place that in particular was like very well prominently placed, but it was not maintained. And I felt like I feel like we need to have a process by which we hold them that it's clear that it's termed, and that it can end, that it should, that needs to be a reapplication at the end of, like, say, 3 years, or I don't know, something like that. But so that there's some real incentive for people to do a good job. Like, if I want to maintain this kind of advertising for my landscaping company, and then there's also a way to assess to say you haven't been doing a good job, and so we're going to because right now it's sort of, I remember when we were coming up with these ideas, the director went around, DPW Anthony, and sort of talked to landscapers to see if they were interested. Well, I'm sure that there might be other landscapers that would like to get in on that as well. So my concern here was, and it was addressed, thank you, Director, the particular place that I was concerned, but I know that we have many of these located throughout the town, and I want to make sure that we are, the purpose of it was to bring beauty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not to, not just to, and then the added benefit, the win-win would be the advertisement of those landscaping companies, advertising for those landscaping companies. But it's gotta, people need to be held responsible.
I think too many just maintain.
I have
some of them some of them go above and beyond, and then others just maintain, just have their sign there. So I think we kind of should probably, I like what Councilwoman Davis said, maybe do it on a 2-year cycle, and then let them kind of rebid, or if they're doing a good job, they get it again. And then we should also set guidelines with some of these companies as well. Maybe we could have speak to Frank, come up with something, Frank Simone, and we'll present it and we'll agree on something that we could give to these landscaping companies.
Okay. I do have a little bit of insight. I spoke
Okay.
with Frank with regard to this. We currently have 16 locations that have the Adopt the Island program. We do have an agreement with them, but it is, like you said, there's really no expectations set on the landscapers. So what we're going to do is put a better agreement together, raise the bar a little bit as far as our expectations are concerned. We'll put something together, send it out to the mayor and council. You guys can take a look at it, and then rebid them. And if you want to do it on a 2-year basis, that's fine.
What do we do it now, a yearly basis, or
Yeah,
we haven't changed anything?
Everything is pretty much just
Okay.
cycles year after year, but the expectations definitely need to be changed in the agreement.
Councilman Mandel.
Yeah, and just to give you, for your benefit, Anthony, some sort of like institutional knowledge, maybe 2 years ago, the Beautification Committee did seek, in concert with the DPW director, to look and see if there were different or new landscapers that would be interested. So they sent letters out. I'm sure Diana probably has those on file. Just so you have sort of like you might want to look at that and see who they reached out to. They actually had zero luck in doing that most of the landscapers were wholly not interested in doing it. So you may want to also see if there's another, or maybe like an alternative to this program that we can come up with as well.
Okay.
That might be helpful.
I think that it's hard for me to imagine that a relatively newer landscaping company would not jump at this opportunity. The ones that are really trying to get their names out. So it may be that we're talking to the people who are long established and then they've got their routes and they got stuff, but I'm pretty sure that there are some relatively new landscapers that would love to have, and if we tell them this is our expectation, that they would step up to that standard.
I agree, and there may be like a record of who they reached out to. I'm not sure, because I think Director Nesto at the time had sort of taken that on and was sending the letters out, so I don't know who they went to, but you may have a history there that you can refer back to.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We need to do that. I will tell, just talking to a handful of landscapers in town, they are short-staffed just like everyone else, so it's, but it's still no excuse.
But they get the advertising.
Right, no, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but, an established landscaper probably, like you said, probably sees it as a grind, like, oh, I gotta go take care of that property again, whereas somebody new might have more incentive to keep it nice and make it look good.
And that process will include us following up to make sure that it's adhered to.
Okay, and presentation about planning.
Yeah. So and this is just goes back to a conversation that I want to have with you all about where we're going as a town, right? I know incrementally we may make some motion over here, but I don't ever get the sense that we have been provided the bigger picture of what is, we have an urban planner, we have some sense, but the kind of having that articulated to us about what we see, because one of the long, concerns I've had from when I was first running for office, and I'd walk through and I would say, what happened to this area? Because it just seemed like that happened and that happened and that happened and that happened, and it wasn't really clear how all the pieces come together. And so what I would like to do is this is a request to actually have a presentation by our planner that will lay out for us, what has been, what are they working with?
Right.
What is their, we're not experts in urban planning. And so we need to rely on the experts to be able to share that, but it needs to be shared because we are accountable for that. And when when things happen and we don't necessarily know, and they say, well, the ordinance says blah, blah, blah. Well, at that point it's too late.
It's over. It's not right.
So I'd like to be on the front end of that, have a conversation, have someone give us a really thorough presentation about, with documentation, about what is the plan.
I think we could not only have the planner, but also see if we can get, and we can even have, somebody could sign into Zoom and speak to us, correct? At a council meeting?
Yes.
So I would also recommend, maybe every quarter, or we have our, Mike Rubin as well, just to see what's going on in the zoning board, what's going on the planning board, what we should be looking to change, that type of stuff, quarterly.
Right.
And Bonnie.
No, I know, in addition to Bonnie. Bonnie, we should probably get something,
Yep.
like some type of report, maybe every month or every 2 months from her, similar like we get from the police director.
Right.
About like what's going into her office, what applications are coming in, what, potential sales that, I know a lot of, when potential buildings are being sold, they reach out to her office just to see, what's able to go in the township and whatnot. So I think her once a month, but then also Mike Rubin maybe every quarter, just to see what's going on the planning and zoning boards, and what we should be keeping an eye out to potentially change for the future and that type of stuff.
Okay, and we did have some internal conversation about the master plan and the fact that it's been updated, it is updated, the re-examination was done in a timely fashion. But I agree, it's pretty cumbersome and it's difficult to muddle through and take away an understanding. I think the presentations will hone right in on, where we're going and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, so.
And I think, and more so, I haven't heard this in a couple of months, but when, let's say when an apartment building that has to go in front of the zoning board, and Rich, Councilman Rockwell knows from being on the zoning board, but when that apartment building goes in front of the zoning board, they literally eat up one meeting and then another meeting, and then homeowners that are looking to do small projects that, need to move fairly quick, they get held up from it. So then, we need to look at, see, okay, should we do one special meeting just for homeowners compared to when some of these bigger it's usually like the smaller apartment buildings that have to go in front of the zoning board, but they literally eat up a whole meeting or two. And they literally delay homeowners from doing small residential projects for themselves.
Okay,
So,
we'll look at that.
does anybody else have anything on that? Councilman? You want-
No, I think that's a good idea, with homeowners separate from large projects.
Perfect, okay. All right. Liaison reports? Councilwoman Cruz?
Sure. The gardening committee liaison report, the goal of the committee is to collect 1,000 pounds of produce from our 2 community gardens. Right now, we've collected 163 pounds to date. And also we want to thank Eagle Scout candidate Stephen Antonson from Troop 22. He, for his Eagle Scout project, built 4 beautiful picnic tables. 2 are wheelchair accessible, along with 10 stand-up beds for people who want to garden standing or are perhaps not able to bend down for gardening. So thank you to him and his support team for building that. And also, there'll be 2 youth art workshops taking place at Millbank Garden in August, and more information will follow through social media on registration.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Anybody else? Councilman Gamble?
I just wanted to highlight some of the summer events that the Recreation Department has planned. They're still doing the outdoor movies on Tuesdays. So tomorrow at Carteret School, which is a new location, trying to share some of the opportunities, within different neighborhoods. That's going to be Trolls World Tour. Hopefully weather cooperates. And then we have League of Their Own at UTI on Broad Street. And for the National Night Out at Foley Field, we're doing McFarland USA on Tuesday, August 3rd. Then upcoming concerts in the park, we have the youth band concert Friday the 23rd. Then the Civic Band concert in the park, that'll be July 26th at Pulaski. For art opportunities, they are bringing back Friday Night Fun at the Civic Center for the kids. Friday, July 3rd, doing a tie-dye making class. And then an art in the park on the historic town green on Saturday, July 31st. That should be fun, first time doing something like that. And then, once again, plugging the Hank Barlow golf outing Wednesday, August 4th. And then upcoming in August, they'll have the Hot Summer Nights car shows at the Universal Technical Institute on Broad Street. And that'll be August 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Do we have, I know we have a closed session, but is there anything we have to do in closed that will affect anything in open? Okay, all right. Can I get a motion to go into closed session? Motion. All in favor? Aye. All right, welcome back to open session. We have minutes approval.
Mayor and Council, I have minutes approval for Monday, March 8th, 2021 conference meeting and Monday, March 22nd, 2021 regular meeting. So moved.
Second. Second, Councilman Joanno. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Communications, written.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a letter dated May 31st from Equal Sciences regarding 192 Bloomfield Avenue. From the Department of Transportation, there's two pieces of communication: award approval for Spruce Street and Liberty Street, and for Lackawanna Station improvements for the year 2021. From the Department of Community Affairs, resolutions from the Local Finance Board, and then also from the Department of Transportation, Spruce and Liberty Streets, another piece of correspondence. Hazardous substance discharge notifications, 423 Berkeley Avenue, 28 Mountain Avenue, 225 Delawana Avenue, 41 Columbus Street, 497 Beardsley Avenue. From the Essex County Board of Commissioners, it was a resolution commemorating June as Adopt a Cat Month. From Woodward and Curran, giving notification that 1 Westinghouse Plaza is a classification exception area. And lastly, from New Jersey Transit, announced the publication of Ride to Recovery, New Jersey Transit COVID-19 Response and Path Going Forward. And that publication is found on their website. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Louise. Kathy, do we have anybody on the line? All right, moving on. Introduction of proposed ordinances on first reading. Number 1.
Mayor and Council, have an ordinance to amend Chapter 478, smoking in the Code of the Township of Bloomfield, Essex County, New Jersey, and this is amended to include cannabis legislation. So moved.
Second?
Second, Councilman Gamble. Are there any questions or comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mundell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Number 2.
Mayor and Council have an ordinance to amend Chapter 196, drug paraphernalia within the Township Code of the Township of Bloomfield. Proposed amendment to existing code section for consistency with the recently enacted state regulation, New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Enforcement Assistance and Marketplace Modernization Act. So move.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Cruz. Are there any questions or comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mundell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Number 3.
Mayor and Council have an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 387 of the Bloomfield Township Code, providing parking for physically limited persons, and this is for 89 Broughton Avenue. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Davis. Are there any questions or comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mundell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Number 4.
Mayor and Council, I have an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 387 of the Bloomfield Township Code, providing parking for physically limited persons. This is for the removal of parking spaces at 165 Jerome Place, 175 Baldwin Street, 81 Willard, 125 Willard, So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilman Rockwell. Are there any questions or comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mondell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. And number 5.
Mayor and Council, I have an ordinance to repeal Chapter 254, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 11I, Schedules 254-60, Schedule 20, Loading Zone. This is for LaFrance Avenue. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Mundell. Any questions or comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mondell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Hearing upon adoption or amendment of proposed ordinance on second reading. Number 1.
Mayor and Council, I have an ordinance to amend Chapter 254, Vehicles and Traffic, Article Metered Parking, 254-59, Schedule 19, Angle Parking. This is a proposal to expand reverse angle parking on Glenwood Avenue. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilman Joanno. Are there any questions or comments from members of the audience? Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mondell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Number 2.
Mayor and Council have an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 387 of the Bloomfield Township Code, providing parking for physically limited persons. 29 Hill Street, 67 Franklin Street are being removed. These spaces are no longer used.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Cruz. Are there any questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments from the council? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mondell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. Number 3.
Mayor and Council, I have an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 387 of the Bloomfield Township Code, providing parking for physically limited persons at 12 Kilmer Court, 112 Mayolis Avenue, and 89 Broughton Avenue. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Davis. Are there any questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments from the council? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mondell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. And number 4.
Mayor and Council, I have an amendment to Chapter 315, Land Development of the Township Code, permitting Class 5 cannabis retail establishments as conditional uses in the central business districts and the B2 neighborhood business district. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilman Gamble. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public?
Is that supposed to be establishments instead of establishments? Or
Establishment.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I was like, I'm pretty smart, but I never heard of
Are
establishments.
there any questions or comments from members of the council? Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, just to go through a few things. After you adopted this ordinance on first reading at the June meeting, you also referred the ordinance to the Planning Board for their review and consideration and requested any comments that they might have. Last week, the Planning Board took this under their advisement. Both the mayor and I appeared by Zoom at that meeting and answered a number of questions. One recommendation they had was to add a 200-foot buffer from any retailer to any schools or churches or what's the word I'm looking for churches? Houses of worship. They reasoned that the state law imposes this on retail sale of alcohol, so retail sale of cannabis they felt should be handled the same way. I think that makes a lot of sense. You can adopt that amendment today, and we can move forward with the ordinance with that amendment. There's also been some consideration from other people, because we get a lot of thoughts, and some things seem to make sense as you live with this a little bit. One of those thoughts is we currently have a requirement in the ordinance that requires all retailers to be on their own lot and have on-site parking. What we found is that really eliminates a lot of our business district from even having an opportunity to participate in that. So one consideration would be to remove that requirement that a retailer should be on its own singular lot with on-site parking, and open it up to all retail establishments with certain parking requirements as you would have on other retail. The other current condition that we may want to look at is the buffer, the 1,000-foot buffer around the historic district and historic sites. Again, and we provided you some color maps that Bonnie put together just to give you a kind of a rudimentary illustration that 1,000 feet from just the green really takes out an entire business district. And I'm sure there's other locations, but that was the most glaring one. And maybe reduce this buffer to just no retail in the historic district itself, or on a historic site, of course.
So one recommendation, I think we should do similar to what we're doing for the schools, the 200 feet from the historic district, where it doesn't take out this whole section, but it still gives it a
you
buffer.
some protection, sure.
I understand the rationale for buffers for schools and houses of worship. I'm not quite sure I get it for historic.
I didn't get it either, but
I'm wondering what it is too.
yeah, I'm fine with taking it out completely. I thought it was in there for a reason, the 1,000 feet.
And I can foresee a possibility. I'm not sure about the word historic site. I can foresee designating a storefront building as historic, as a historic local landmark. Right. And I wouldn't want to rule out having marijuana sales in, just because it's a storefront. I mean, a storefront that we think is a local landmark, or a church building, or a diner, like a diner, one of the which has an opinion of eligibility. The diner on Bloomfield Avenue. If somebody, it's got parking, and it's just, I wouldn't want to rule that
Right,
out.
if it ceases existence as a diner and just as empty shellers.
And the other thing too about one of the issues that came up in the planning board meeting was in another town when they instituted the sale of cannabis. There were lines of people waiting to get in. I think store owners in Bloomfield would love to have that foot traffic, and I'd love to see people come to Bloomfield Center. I wouldn't want to rule that out.
I agree with you. Yeah. I thought that the 1,000 feet came from
one of us.
No, so I apologize. I should have discussed it with you earlier.
No, that was kind of from the planning world.
I'm okay with making it 0, but I think we need to keep the 200 feet from a school. That's important.
Yeah, and I can see not in the historic district, but
right, not in, and that's what we're looking to reduce.
I don't think there's any besides those row of houses that are more offices. Is there retail in the historic district?
Well, there may be in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. So second part of that is if we adopt some of those things that now potentially impact more residents, I think we need some additional notice, which would mean we probably need a special meeting.
Okay.
Because this ordinance, the timeline is August 21st, has to be passed by that. Our next meeting, unfortunately, isn't until after that.
And another thing where I know we did, so we did 6 dispensaries.
Yep.
Where 3 of them are going to be designated for you have to live in Bloomfield, and they have to be 2,500. But I think we should just bump that up slightly to 3,500.
Well, that's the state is 25 to make it a micro business.
The state micro business is just for grow. It's not for a dispensary. You're not allowed to sell out of a micro one. You're only allowed to. It's only for grow.
Because I think they have retail micro licenses as well.
Not currently, no.
They're not doing those.
So, but I think we should still do our own, where you have to be a Bloomfield resident and it has to stay under the 3,500 square feet.
Okay. So we are ruling out any growing or the other categories other than retail sales, right? We're ruling those out?
It's just for now. It's really to get started concurrently with all these ordinances that towns are passing or not passing. The Regulatory Commission is getting together and passing their regulations. They have the same date to get their regulations out too. So we thought it might be a little more measured to retail. We understand what retail is. Some of the other things it may be.
We might be back in September and October.
Yeah, we can
after
amend
they
later on,
What
but we just have to have our initial ordinance in place.
Or if somebody wanted to establish a growing facility, for example, would they come before the zoning or planning and try to get a variance, or could they get a variance from this ordinance?
So, right now, they can't. Right now, that's prohibited. But what we have in the ordinance is currently just all retailers have to go to the planning board for review, for site plan review. So it would be the same if you were a cultivator or manufacturer, et cetera.
Councilwoman Davis?
I would like to just make sure that we don't, in our hesitancy, miss opportunity, right? And so I would like to make sure that we are, yes, we're still trying to figure out what some things mean, but I don't want it to be like December when we think about it. I want it to be proactively, because I'd like to be able to attract.
Sure.
I mean, when they're not making test tubes.
Yeah, we have vacant properties.
Well,
that
we
can-
can.
I'm doing Lions
So
Gate, but, you
we
know-
can always adopt this initial ordinance and then come back in September and then adopt a new one that adds the
We can-
pro license aspect to it.
If you don't do anything, you're stuck
Right,
with
you're stuck with
nothing.
everything,
But
correct.
we have at least
Now we
some-
have
yeah.
flexibility to do what
Right.
we want moving
We have
forward. So that's-
flexibility.
And yeah, and if we did have people who were interested in
Yeah.
a facility, I'd want to have some kind of process to not restrict them across the board.
Agreed. And one of the things, it's funny, going back to an earlier discussion on planning, the master plan was somewhat discouraging of more industrial facilities, and not that marijuana growth is necessarily industrial anymore. I know it can be done on a small scale, but that was one of the considerations of not adding it in there. Where do we put it? What types of buildings? You could have endless discussions on this, but that was just from an initial standpoint. why we
Now,
didn't.
do we define what is a school in the 200 feet?
We did, yes.
Is it
it's
K through 12?
Primary, secondary,
Okay.
not daycare,
And not college?
not college.
Okay.
Primary, secondary.
Okay. Are there any other questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, Councilman Joanno?
Just the larger one, when we talk about planning and zoning, this fits very nicely into creating a master plan. And I've said that before, because our master plan is simply out of date, doesn't reflect our current community. And we talk about new legislation such as this, it doesn't fit. It doesn't give the zoning and planning board guidance, direction, and recommendation. So I think commensurate with what we're doing now, and some initiative needs to go forward to begin the process of a master plan that defines Bloomfield.
Well, Anthony has spoken to both Bonnie and Michael Rubin, and so yes, our master plan, when you see the date, I believe it's 2004, but there's been 3 updates to it. They feel we don't need a full master plan, that we just need a potential updates from the current master plan. So that's something we could look at, and as we have Bonnie and Mike Rubin here in the future, we could have those discussions.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, Louise, if we need 10 days' notice, how long does that take for us to get that into a paper? Is it, like, could we do it tomorrow if we needed to, or
We
does
could do
it
it
take?
tomorrow, but we publish next week.
Okay.
So it'll be 10 days from next Thursday.
10 days from now, it takes,
No.
It
but
takes 10 days?
The publication,
oh,
10 days from the actual publication.
got it. But I meant it doesn't get published until next Thursday for the first time?
Right, because it's the weekly paper. And it's already Monday, they
Okay.
take.
How
the
much
meeting.
time do they need to get it on a Thursday? Could we give it to them on the Wednesday before, or it takes a week?
No, the deadline is
They need
the
it Monday
Friday
morning.
before.
Oh, Friday
Monday-
before.
Yeah,
so.
we
Friday
should get it
morning.
in by
Okay.
Friday.
Okay. So that's something to think about when,
It's why they should only be advertising for online
I mean, you could advertise it in the Star Ledger.
Can't do it in the Star Ledger.
That's why it's 2021, folks.
You could advertise it in the Star Ledger. I mean, obviously, you know,
Bananas, yeah,
it
right.
costs more, but you can use a daily paper.
Right, okay. I'm just trying to give us as much flexibility because we
We'll
have
figure out for a date,
we
because
have
then we have to have a
draft
certain
deadline.
date between the, when's our August meeting?
23rd? I think it's the 23rd.
Oh, no, we only have, it would be second reading.
It would be a separate meeting. It has to be before the 21st, that's right.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let us know.
Okay, I'll make those changes. I'll circulate them
Are
around.
there any other questions, comments? Louise, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Mundell?
Yes.
Councilman Joanna?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gamble?
Yes.
Councilman Rockwell?
Yes.
Mayor Venezia?
Yes. All right, Councilman Gamble, can you move consent resolutions 1 through 11?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move consent resolutions 1 through 11. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilman Rockwell. Any other questions? Excuse me. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions, number 1.
Mayor and Council, I have a redevelopment agreement for 19-35 Broad Street. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Mundell. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2.
Mayor and Council, I have a resolution for emergency hire part-time fire inspector. So moved.
Second, Councilman Joanno. Are there any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3.
Mayor and Council request for catastrophically employee 001210. So moved.
Second.
Second, Councilwoman Cruz. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And new business licenses?
Mayor and Council have licenses for July 19th, 2021, outdoor dining Belgian Gervaser for Belgian's Deli and Catering, and filming permit for Lori LeVolpe and Lawn News, Inc. So moved, sorry.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Joanno. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.